What is on tap at Couz's Corner today? We have a very special show for you. We have a very special guest by the name of Big Game Boomer. You probably know who he is if you're on Twitter. He has about 48,000, close to 49,000 followers on Twitter. He has his own podcast. He loves to talk college football, and he is not very well liked by many in Mountaineer Nation. So I'm going to let Big Game Boomer show us and tell us the method to his madness, and we're going to talk a little bit of college football. At the bottom of the screen, I've got the Twitter handle for both myself and Big Game Boomer scrolling across the bottom. If you're listening on podcast platforms, I appreciate you tuning in. Check us out on Spotify, Amazon, Apple, all the popular podcast platforms. Please follow us there as well. Support our show. And on YouTube, please subscribe if you haven't yet. In the meantime, without further ado, I want to bring in my guest, Big Game Boomer. How you doing?
Hey, Couz, what's going on, man? Happy Friday.
Happy Friday, man. I appreciate you coming on the show.
Yeah, happy to be on.
All right, let's dig in, man. First off, you are very well known on Twitter for your polls, your rankings, I should say.
Yeah.
What? You've come out with a lot of unique rankings, man. You know, best food joints to eat at in college football towns. You do best position groups.
Yeah.
All kinds of crazy stuff. So what is how do you get all these ideas, man? What's the method to your madness?
I mean, I have all these ideas that I basically kind of started, I think February of 2021, making these lists and rankings. And it's just really spiraled from one thing to another. And I have when I do player rankings and coach rankings and all that kind of stuff, I'm pretty serious with it. Because you'll do a list like that, and all of a sudden it's like it's in like an article, or all the coaches retweet it, parents retweet it. So I'm serious with those, but I'll with some of but then I try to have fun with some of these lists and rankings. Like today I did best traveling fan bases, and some of it's probably, I'd say, I don't know, 75% accurate. But then I took a shot at the Pac-12 basically with like USC and UCLA as the least traveling, because they're going to the Big Ten, and I don't think they're really going to be traveling out east to some of those Big Ten college towns. So it's a mix and match of just, my opinion. Some of it's data related, but it's fun, and it's really blown up, and I enjoy it. So here we are.
and I think your Twitter followers enjoy it as well, apparently, or at least I don't know about enjoy, but they definitely are active and to interact with you.
Yeah, and it's like, I know West Virginia right now thinks, oh, I hate West Virginia, and in this day and age, people's memories are so, people's memory span is so short. Like, West Virginia fans don't remember from last year when I was very high on West Virginia.
Mm-hmm.
I thought you guys would finish fourth in the conference last year, I think. And it's really this year, I'm not high on West Virginia. So of course my rankings aren't going to reflect that. And so West Virginia fans, they've been grilling me all off season. It's been fun, but I don't hate West Virginia.
Right. Well, and I'm not gonna lie, I was in that group of two at first when I first discovered your stuff. I was like, man, this guy hates our guts. He never picks us. He never says anything positive about us, I wasn't following you before. Like we talked before the show.
Yeah.
I've not been active on Twitter that long, so I didn't really know who you were. And
I guess coming up to this last season, I had, say, like 15,000 followers. So I didn't have near as many followers. So now I think I'm almost to like 49 or 50,000. So there's definitely a lot more eyeballs on the tweets. So that's probably has a lot to do with it, I'm sure.
Yeah, it does. I'm sure it does. Yeah.
Yeah.
And none of us like negativity. None of us like an outsider to say anything bad about our own team or our own fan base.
That's the beauty of those lists, man, is these fans, they have so much passion for their schools that, my God, if the Mexican restaurant you think is the best in your college town isn't on a list, you're going to freak out about it and,
Yeah.
voice your opinion. That's what I love about it.
By the way, kudos on picking Tudor's Biscuit World as the best breakfast spot in West Virginia.
Yeah, no, that's see with Morgantown, that's good. So Morgantown, my little brother actually played football at West Virginia,
Oh,
so
awesome.
I get my inside scoop from him every now and then when it comes to
Cool.
Morgantown food spots.
Awesome. So
Yeah.
you see, you have a personal connection to West Virginia,
Yeah,
even.
absolutely. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
okay. So in that case, explain to me why so much. I don't want to say negativity, but a lot of the polls you put out, you're not picking West Virginia to do real well.
Yeah.
Apparently, what are your thoughts behind that?
Well, I mean, it's a lot. So the Neil Brown era is what in year 4. He's 17 and 18. It's just been real average. And there's just not a lot of high points. I mean, I remember with Dana Holgerson, West Virginia was a fun team to watch play. I mean, I know y'all weren't happy with the records and thought he should have won more, but West Virginia, like when they would come into Norman or when OU would go up to Morgantown, man, those were some fun, exciting games. And I thought with Neil Brown, he's an offensive guy coming from Troy. I really thought the offense wouldn't skip a beat.
Right.
Because the offense has been successful for over a decade. Even this whole century with Rich Rod, with all those guys. So to see West Virginia really struggle on offense has been just real kind of jaw dropping for me. And, I thought last year was going to be the year that Dahey gets it together. I thought Letty Brown was a great running back. The defense was good. And it just didn't happen. And I think a lot of it was because of the quarterback play. Obviously, Dahey's gone. And JT Daniels comes in. You bring in a new offensive coordinator, Graham Harrell. Those guys have a prior relationship. So I know West Virginia fans are high on that. I'm not that high on JT Daniels. If you watched him, he did all right at USC, but I mean, he's had a torn ACL before. Last year, we don't really know what was going on with I think it was his oblique that he pulled or tore or something, but I'm concerned about him staying healthy. And even his success at Georgia in 2020, it was against, in the regular season, it was against inferior kind of opponents in the SEC. It was against Mississippi State, South Carolina, Mizzou. And then he really struggled when he played a good defense. He really struggled in that Peach Bowl against Cincinnati in 2020. So that has a lot to do with it. I'm not high on JT Daniels. You lose Letty Brown, great running back. I don't know who's. You could tell me. Is it Tony Mathis Jr.? Is it? I know Lynn J. Dixon's not there anymore. So, who's going to step up there? Wide receiver. I guess Bryce Ford Wheaton, and shout out to him. He's trolled me a couple times on Twitter. He's a fun guy. But the offense has got to step up. I mean, they've been 119th, 85th, and 92nd in yards per play the last 3 years. That's got to get better. So it's the offense. I think the defense will be there. Jordan Leslie's a great defensive coordinator. I'm a little worried about the defensive line after Akeem Messidor transferring to Miami. I think that's a huge loss. And also the secondary is, how many guys transferred or are gone? But I'm more concerned about the offense than I am the defense. But yeah, so there it is in a nutshell in a couple minutes.
Yeah,
why I'm not high on West Virginia.
And I think it's all fair because what I'm learning is across the country there's a lot of media folks, a lot of podcasters, whatnot, picking West Virginia to have an average to even bad season. And no, I don't think there's not very many people picking them to win more than 6 games. There's a few, but not many.
Yeah.
And most of them are saying, hey, it's just because there's so many unknowns. I don't know how good JT Daniels is going to be. I don't know if he's even going to stay healthy. I don't know how good these transfers that are coming in are going to be. You talked about the running back spot. Tony Mathis is the guy there right now. From what we saw last year, now, in all fairness, it was against Kansas, but he looked great in that game. And then he looked good in the game against Mint. He was really the only offensive player that played good at all, had any positive moments at all against Minnesota. He did run for over 50 yards in that game with very little help. So
Yeah.
and he had some flashes. So I think it's his time to shine. He's been dealing with injuries most of his career so far. So I do think he's going to have a breakout year. Behind him is Justin Johnson Jr., who was a 4-star recruit that came in last year. And he's expected to be really good as well. I think he'll get quite a few carries too. But it's all fair because, like you said, there's a lot of unknowns. And anytime a team loses, that so much of their production from the previous season, it's hard to imagine they'll be better, right?
Yeah, there's just I mean when you're making like preseason predictions and stuff, you really go off based on what you know from last season, who's returning, and then a lot of it's just it's speculation.
Right. It is.
So I mean, there's just a lot of question marks for West Virginia, and I don't think Neil Brown's on the hot seat, but you go 7-5. I mean 8-4. Like I've seen some West Virginia writers say that's kind of where they think that West Virginia will land. Man, next year could be really interesting for Neil Brown for sure.
Yeah, it's I'm in the 8-4 camp myself. I think if you go less than that, Neil Brown's going to have a lot of questions. 7-5, depending on how the team looks offensively.
Yeah.
If you still suck offensively and you go 7-5, then I have a problem.
Sure. Yeah.
If you look better offensively and because we do have a tough schedule. I mean, we have 2 non-conference Power 5 teams on the road.
Oh yeah.
So that plays a role in a lot of people's predictions too, I guess. But I guess for those of like me who follows the team every day, and I know I may know more. I may not know more than you do about.
You probably know more than me about West Virginia football.
I can tell you, there's
that.
a lot of things behind the scenes that most people nationally don't know. Like the three transfer DBs we brought in all have over 1,000 snaps of college football experience. Charles Woods might be the best cover corner in the Big 12 this year, according to Pro Football Focus. He is based on his numbers from last year. So there's that. Then we've got a middle linebacker that nobody knows about named Lee Koba, who our defensive coordinator absolutely lights up like a Christmas tree when you mention the guy's name. So I think he's going to be good. So there's a lot of these unknowns. When you listen to the coaching staff talk about them and kind of watch their body language and read between the lines, you can kind of get for me personally, and some of it might be homerism. I admit that. Maybe I'm just overly optimistic. It's possible. But there's just so many good things, and Neil Brown answered all the questions we had. He answered them. We were all wanting him to go out and hire an offensive coordinator. He did that, and a pretty darn good one at that, in our opinion. He brought in the star quarterback that we've been missing since he's been here. Now assuming that star quarterback can stay healthy, and
that's the thing. That's the thing. Okay. Like I've heard, so much over the last couple of years. JT Daniels, he's a star. He's a star in the making. And I haven't seen it. I mean, he's got to prove it this year. Well, he's got to stay healthy, and he's got to prove it for me to see it.
Yeah.
Because last year I think going into the season he was a Heisman favorite, and of course he was injured, but he's got to prove it to me, and he'll get his opportunity week 1 when you guys had to up the road to no longer Heinz Field.
Yeah, Acrisure. I don't even know how to pronounce it.
I don't even. Yeah, wow, that's ridiculous.
I'm always going to call it Heinz Field.
Probably. Yeah.
But anyway, it's fair. It's a fair point. And I used to get angry and upset. I don't want to say angry, but I used to get agitated when people were so down on it. But once I step back and look, I'm like, you know what? Those guys don't understand. All they can go by is what they know, and what they know is we had a bunch of guys leave. Our offense has sucked for 3 years. Neil Brown has yet to prove himself. That's all they know, right? We lost our number one offensive producer in Lady Brown. Our offensive line seemed inconsistent, which Coach Brown will even argue that it wasn't their fault.
That's a whole. I completely forgot to thank you for bringing it up, because yes, the whole offensive line returns, but that's an offensive line that gave up, I think, almost 40 sacks last year. So it's and yes, you can blame Dahey for holding onto the ball too long. Certainly you can blame him for that, but they got to step it up for sure. People always think, oh, you're returning a ton of starters, so they're definitely going to be better from the year before. I mean, we got to see. I mean, that's not
Yeah.
not always the case. Look at Iowa State last year. I mean, how many people were picking them to go, maybe to the Josh Pate picked them to go to the college football playoff last year, and they ended up going 7-6.
Yeah.
So you never know at this time of the year.
Yeah, West Virginia dominated them in Morgan. Well, I don't say dominate them, but West Virginia beat them pretty well. It was the best performance best game West Virginia played all season.
Yeah.
Overall. Their offense actually played really well that game, believe it or not. Jarrett Daggy had probably the best game of his career against Iowa State last year. He lit it up. But anyway, I want to move on for a minute. But back to your point. But just to close out that discussion, your criticism was fair because you're basing it on what you know and what you've seen, and in your opinion, it's all speculation, like you said. And until these guys, if as West Virginia fans, if we want our team to be respected, they have to earn it. And I just hope they will. I hope they will this year.
No doubt. If West Virginia goes 8-4, 9-3, I will happily come back on this show and say that I'm wrong, because it's what I think at Friday at 4:00 on August 5th. It's just, right.
I got you. And that's fair. That's fair. Now let's go real quick. I want to talk about a specific poll or ranking that you did a couple of days ago that's caused a lot of controversy amongst West Virginia fans. Why did Big Game Boomer say that West Virginia was scared to play Pitt? And I'm going to share the screen.
Yeah, pull that thing up. That's a list that I made about this time last year, and I just looked at it, and I was just looking at the schedule. Okay, Pitt, I know you guys hate Pitt, but they're going to be pretty good next year. That defense, whole offensive line that is good. They're going to be physical. So if I'm Neil Brown, they'll never admit this person up front. But I'd be like, whoa, this is especially with the West Virginia's fan base. And no, the players aren't scared. This is just a fun kind of list to throw out there before the season. But I could just see with Pitt and their success that this team could be a little scared of going up there to whatever that field's called now to play a very good Pitt team. And I saw it just sold out. So hopefully that's a lot of West Virginia fans going to that game.
Well, that's a whole nother controversy. I don't know if you've been involved in any of those discussions, but
no, I've not.
Cow. West Virginia fans, obviously, one of the things we like to rub in Pitt's face is the fact that their fans don't show up to their games.
Oh yeah, I rip them all.
West Virginia fans typically do, and we rub that in their face. So a lot of West Virginia fans are going on Twitter saying, "Hey, Pitt fans, you're welcome for selling out your game," and all this. And Pitt fans are not appreciating that too much. And there's even Pitt media people now jumping into the fray and firing back at West Virginia fans. It's
really,
and West Virginia fans are and this guy owns a media company who covers West Virginia, but he's a Pitt fan and a Pitt grad. So now he's got West Virginia fans pissed off, blocking him on Twitter, and I'm like, that's not a good business move, bro.
See, this is why Pitt and West Virginia need to play every year.
Absolutely.
It's ridiculous that it doesn't happen. These regional rivalries are so great. And I feel bad for West Virginia fans because you guys kind of got stuck going to the Big 12 where you really have no tradition at all. But yeah, no, this list, it's something fun. It's hilarious to me when I put out a list like that. And then you get the fans like saying, "Oh, we're not scared. Like, what are you talking about?" Like, it's all fun to kind of just put out there. Have people arguing about it.
And that's one. And I think that answered my next question about is, are you referring to the fans being scared, the players being scared, the coaches being scared? What do you
more about the fan base, particularly because like I said earlier, Neil Brown, they're not. I don't think they're scared. This has more to do with the actual fan base.
I got you.
Yeah.
Well,
should have been more specific on that tweet.
Yeah, and in full disclosure, well, that takes the fun out of it, though, doesn't it?
Yeah.
But full disclosure, as a fan, I'm scared to death to lose that game because I know Pitt's a good team.
Yeah, they're a dang good team.
And I know if they win the game, their fans are going to absolutely throttle us on Twitter.
Their 5 fans on Twitter will, yes, come after you guys.
Hey, but those 5 fans, dude, are very aggressive.
Yeah.
But no, hey, and I got to give you credit though for this one. I don't know how many fans looked at the left side of that page. You guys actually put West Virginia down as the one team Baylor is scared to play.
That's I mean, when's the last time Baylor's won in Morgantown?
They haven't yet, to my
Yeah,
knowledge.
exactly. So that game's on a Thursday night.
Yep.
Yeah. So that could be tough. Even if West Virginia's having a down year, going to Morgantown on a Thursday night is not an easy task to come out with a victory. So, I mean, I looked at the schedule, just kind of picked one game that I thought would be trouble and just really picked it for that. So,
right, I got you. Can't let you go with or get out of this interview without talking about the hot topic of the day, which is conference realignment. It's kind of quieted down for now, I think.
Yeah.
In your opinion, what do you think will be? Do you think we'll see any movement in the next few weeks, days? Do you think it's going to quiet down for a while? What do you think's the next?
Yeah, because I think basically everything is done. I mean, there's been so much just garbage on Twitter over the last couple weeks where people, just making all these false claims about, Colorado and Utah are going to there. Nobody knows anything. It's a very small circle of the people that know stuff. I don't think anything's going to happen until probably this time next year when we're done with the academic calendar, when baseball is done. And it really just has to do with Notre Dame, obviously, whatever they decide to do. And that'll be the next domino. I think Oregon and Washington are definitely, trying to keep the Pac-12 together because they do not want to go to the Big 12 at all.
Right.
But the Big 10 doesn't want them. So it's an interesting dynamic there. You've seen it, if you're on Twitter, those fan bases, kind of, especially Washington and Oregon, are sticking their noses up to the Big 12, thinking that they're better than it. And I think the Big 12 is situated great. I mean, it's going to be a fun conference, adding Houston, BYU, Cincinnati, and UCF. I can't think of 4 better group of 5 programs to add to a conference. I mean, they got the best 4, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
So it's gonna be a very fun conference for sure. But who knows, man? Who knows? I never would have thought OU and Texas would go to the SEC, but here we are.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be interesting few years in college football, because I do think we will see some more shoes drop, but I don't know that it'll be. I don't know that it'll be in the near future. I think it'll be, like you said, probably next year. About this time next year, probably we'll see. We'll get Notre Dame's going to the Big Ten, or Stanford's going to the Big Ten, or whatever. We'll hear something. Do you think the Big 12? Because Brett Yormark, the new commissioner, said that they're open for business. They are looking at potential expansion candidates and that kind of thing. Do you think the Big 12 will expand anymore, or do you think they'll stay at 12?
I think they want to expand. I think they want to add Colorado, Utah, and the Arizona schools. And shoot, they'd maybe even add Oregon and Washington. But it's just, can you get those schools to commit? That's going to be the tough, because other than Utah, I mean, we're talking, how long have these schools been together in the same conference and breaking away from the Pac-12? I mean, that's going to be a huge, just culture change. Traveling east, I mean, it's a huge deal. But if I'm Yormark, I am going in guns blazing, trying to do whatever I can to get those schools to commit, for sure. I mean, it'd be a great basketball conference. I feel bad for West Virginia, because you do talk about adding schools from the Pac-12, and gosh, you guys are already screwed with the travel bill. I mean, think about having to go to Arizona, and I mean, Colorado, Utah. You're already going to Utah for BYU, but man, it's gonna be tough.
Absolutely. Yep. It's we're not. I like the Big 12 as far as I think we're a great fit culturally. We have a lot in common with the schools in the conference as far as being a land grant school, and our fan bases have a lot in common. We're all passionate about football and our schools and our teams. We're all kind of in rural areas.
Yeah.
But geographically, man, it's just a challenge. And I don't think fans outside of our fan base realize it. I I have nothing against a conference. And as a matter of fact, right, if you ask me today, what would I rather do versus Big 12 or ACC, I think we're better off in the Big 12 right now.
Really?
Because I don't think the ACC is real stable either long term because of that monstrosity of a grant of rights deal they have right now.
Yeah, no,
So,
that grant of rights deals really has completely screwed them over.
Yeah. But and a lot of Big 12 fans get upset with us because a lot of West Virginia fans want to be in the ACC for obvious reasons.
Yeah, it
And
makes
a lot
sense.
of Big 12 fans get offended by that. They're like, you guys don't even want to be here. And no, that's not the case. Like I told one fan, I said, we had every rival we had stripped away from us. Every one of them.
Yeah.
Pitt, Virginia Tech, Miami, Boston College, all of them gone. And we had no control over it. And and then we get thrown to, and we've had some really, really great games in the Big 12, and I've enjoyed it. And I'll continue to watch it and cheer. And I'm a Big 12 guy. I'm doing videos defending the Big 12, and I'm really passionate about the Big 12. But it's just that dang, traveling when you're a basketball team, it's not a big deal for the football team because they only play once a week. But when you're the basketball team and you play a game on a Wednesday night or a Monday night in Texas at 9 p.m. Eastern time,
yeah,
and you have to travel all the way back to Morgantown, and you get back at 5 or 6 a.m. in the morning, and then have to go to class at 8 o'clock.
It's not easy.
What sense does that make?
Yeah, it's
Bob Huggins fusses about it all the time. He said the NCAA says they all, it's all about what's best for the student athlete. He said there is no way this is best for the student athlete. It's all about money.
But what are your options? I mean, as a if you're the athletic director at West Virginia, you got to take into consideration, okay, we're going to get more money being in the Big 12, so we'll have to increase our travel budget. Whereas to not being in the Big 12 and maybe being independent in a Group of 5 conference and really struggling financially, I mean, You just got to weigh all your options.
Yeah, I mean, we're definitely better off in the Big 12 than we would have been had we not, had we stayed in the what was in the Big East is now basically the American.
Yeah.
We're definitely better off. Don't get me wrong. That's why I say I don't like to throw a lot of shade or hate towards the Big 12 because the Big 12 took us when other conferences would not. And I think we've been a good fit in the Big 12. And to be honest with you, most fans I have communicated with actually like West Virginia being in the Big 12. You get a few that like to throw shade or hate or whatever, but that's just part of being a fan, I guess.
I like it. I mean, obviously, I'd like to see you guys playing your rivals, your real rivals every year. But I mean, West Virginia fans, I mean, they travel great. Mm-hmm. I mean, they always come down to Norman. I know they love going down to Austin. So they're a great fit for the Big 12, despite the location, I think.
Yeah. Quick, I want to get your thoughts on. You're an Oklahoma fan, obviously.
Yeah.
With the name Big Game Boomer. I want to kind of give me your thoughts on the upcoming season for Oklahoma. Where do you expect them to finish in the Big 12? And maybe hit some highlights on some certain positions or something you want to talk about.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, gosh, talk about a team with just so much turnover and just uncertainty going into the season. I mean, OU probably has more uncertainty than West Virginia does. I mean, this team, you lose, so many transfers. You have so many guys graduate. It's going to be, and sorry if you hear my son out there yapping. He's just
I don't hear
loud.
You're good.
Okay. All right. So, like I said, ton of turnover between the coaching staff and players. I think that that Venables has come in. He's done a great job kind of building the culture. He has that team kind of bought in, and he's doing a great job on the recruiting trail. Really saved the recruiting class last year. They're doing great this year. And you bring in Dylan Gabriel from the quarterback from UCF that transferred to UCLA, then OU, him with Jeff Lebby, the offensive coordinator at Ole Miss. That's going to be a great combo because they had some success together in 2019 at UCF. My biggest concern is Lebby. If you watched Ole Miss last year, they love to run loves to run the quarterback in his offense. So Matt Corral ran the ball. He had like over 200 yards in one game last year. Gabriel broke his collarbone against Louisville last season in like the second game. So I'm a little concerned if Gabriel goes down and gets hurt. I mean, OU's screwed. They don't have a very good option at backup. I mean, so that's my biggest concern there. I mean, I think running back, a little concern there as well. Eric Gray, he's a good back, but he's not really. I wouldn't say, one of those backs that's going to run between the tackles. He's more of a get him into the outside, him in the flat. Better receiving running back. Marcus Major and Javonte Barnes should a question mark, and receiver as well. I mean, Marvin Mims and Theo Weiss. Mims, I mean, the last year was just such a weird season. I mean, they go 11-2, but it feels like OU went 6-6. I mean, it was the strangest season. I was at the OU West Virginia game. I was sitting right next to the student section when they started booing or chanting for Rattler to get benched. And
yeah,
man, it was wild. They almost lose to Kansas, losing Bedlam. It's just, there's just so many question marks. But they have talent. OU's won one up from last year. They won the Big 12 6 years in a row for a reason. So I think they're in the top 4. When we're talking who could win it, I think the defense will step up despite all the transfers and everything. Just because I think Venables is just a solid coach. I mean, there's a reason he was so highly coveted by athletic directors trying to get him to be their next head coach. So we'll see. I mean, I really think, obviously Baylor, Oklahoma State, I'm really high on Kansas State.
So am I.
OU. Top to bottom, I think Kansas State is the most complete team heading into the season. And they're it seems like everyone's talking about them right now. But yeah, those are the 4 teams that I really think are going to be competitive and compete for the championship.
Okay, that's cool. So you don't necessarily think Oklahoma's going to win the conference this year?
I just don't. I mean, I just tweeted out I was like, OU will go what in 2022, and I'm seeing 12-0s. I'm seeing 8-2s or 8-4s. I think that this team's not. It's not unless Gabriel gets hurt. This team is not going to go 7-5. But I think it'll be a little transition. I mean, I said on my podcast Monday, I think their ceiling is 10-2. But I would not be shocked if they go 8-4 because just there's so much change and uncertainty. And the Big 12, there's no clear favorite. I mean, this is a very well-balanced league. Even the worst team in the Big 12 probably has a good chance to beat the best team in the Big 12. So, I mean, it's just so hard to predict. But yeah, I mean, they're not going undefeated for sure.
Gotcha. Well, I appreciate that breakdown. Real quick before I let you go, I want you to tell all my viewers where they can find you at as far as your social media platforms and then everywhere else.
Yeah, so I've got a podcast and YouTube show. It's called The Big Game Boomer Show. We talk kind of college football nationally. We're doing kind of our rundowns and prediction win totals for everything right now, but it's just something fun me and my brother have kind of put together. And then I'm on Twitter at Big Game Boomer, Instagram Big Game Boomer. And some days I'll tweet things bad about your school. The next day I'll tweet something good about your school. I did give West Virginia some love today. I had you guys as one of the best traveling fan bases.
Yes, I saw that.
20. Yeah. So I give some love every now and then when it's due. West Virginia fans do travel well. They do. They travel great. So
yeah, and you also put us as one of the top. You had us in mascot. You had us in
the Mountaineer. People outside of the West Virginia fan base don't understand that Mountaineer literally wears the costume like to class, to the grocery store, to get gas. I mean, it's not like just you wear that on game day. I mean, it's a full commitment to being a Mountaineer. It's cool.
And they say the process of becoming the Mountaineer is extremely, extremely strenuous.
Oh, I bet.
They said it is really hard to become the Mountaineer. I mean, it's a tryout. I mean, you got to do a lot of things. They said it's taxing, very taxing. And the one we have now is only the third female Mountaineer we've ever had in school history.
Oh, nice.
And it's the first freshman Mountaineer we've ever had. Because most people don't get it on the first try.
Yeah, you'd think she must be really good or something, because you'd think, that's a some seniors really want that. They waited for it.
Yeah.
So
but they said it's all about, it's all about who earns it. And I guess she earned it. But yeah, I appreciate you coming on the show, man. And everybody go check out Big Game Boomer on YouTube and check him out on are you on pretty much every podcast platform?
Apple and Spotify, basically. Okay. Yeah.
So go check him out, guys. And also don't forget about me here. I'm on YouTube, I'm also on podcast platforms, Apple, Spotify, Anchor, Amazon, most of the big ones out there. Check me out as well here on Kuz's Corner. I appreciate everybody tuning into the show, and I'm sure Big Game Boomer appreciates it as well. And we'll look forward to seeing you on hopefully he and I can do this again, and we'll see you on the next one.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Kuz, I appreciate you, man. Enjoy the show.